Hey there, it's me, Lauren Jackson, an APQS sales representative and educator. I'm going to be putting my version 5 Quilt Path hardware on my dear Lucy here. And we're going to have some fun with her, so I can't wait to show you how it all gets put together. You ready, Lucy? We're going to do a little bit of a makeover. For this step, you're going to want a handy dandy box cutter. Make sure you're cutting away from your body and your hands. Be safe. And now we're going to open her up. Now she is a big box, so make sure you've got some space to do so. And we're going to take out all the things. In that gigantic Quilt Path box, you got 5 main items that you still need to unbox and take care of. You've got, well, not all of them need to be unboxed, but you've got your main Quilt Path hardware. This is what's going to drive your brand new chassis across the table. Okay, you've got your big pole that's going to come up from the Quilt Path hardware and hold your tablet up separately, independently of your machine. You've got your box full of all of your Quilt Path nuts and bolts and hardware that you need. And then this one is your tablet box. This one we're going to open up first because we want to make sure that we can plug it in, it's got power, and that we're updating the tablet inside, because you always have to do updates to tablets when they come out of the box. And lastly, you have your APQS limited warranty and the full Quilt Path installation manual. If you're like me, visual aids like this are really helpful when you're installing a new product, but if you're fantastic at reading, you can take a look at this. They've got really fantastic step-by-step instructions, as well as things to consider before you get started, and a whole list of the articles that are included in here that you need to set up and go ahead and install your Quilt Path. So we're going to go over those articles now. We're going to find those articles in this box. In the very back of your manual, past all of the installation instructions, you're going to find information on your Quilt Path software and updates, registering your Quilt Path with the Grace Company, and updating your Windows 10 operating system, and all of the different things that you need to know to get your tablet to work. How to add Quilt Path to up to 2 different devices so that you can practice on your computer, even if you don't want to practice on your tablet, if it's a little bit easier for you to sit at a desk. And then you've got lots of information if you need more help with understanding your Quilt Path items. So let's go ahead and start unboxing these items so that we can dig into it. Alright, so now that we've got everything out of the box, we want to move to page 10, and we want to go over and double check that we have all of the items for our hardware before we begin. Don't forget to take a look on page 5 about electricity and your APQS machine and how a pure sine wave uninterrupted power supply can assist you in protecting your system from power surges. The first thing you want to do before you get started with your install is get the underneath of your long arm nice and clean and clear so that your quilt path system has space to run. This big boy right here is actually going to be hanging on the back of your machine, riding along this bottom portion. And so we want to make sure that there are no obstructions or things that it can hit and get in the way of. So for now, I'm just going to move all of my things out this way. I may or may not have an organizational bin problem. We're at the back right handle of Lucey, facing the back of the machine, needles on that side, rear of the machine's on this side, and it says right handle right here next to the Ethernet cable port. We're going to go ahead and remove that cable, okay, and we're going to use one of our black plastic USB outlet covers. We're going to use that to protect the outlet from dust and debris now that we no longer have to have that right handle cable in there. When you push it in, it does give a little bit of a pop and click and it locks into place, and that's how you'll know that it is sturdy and safe in there. If you decide that you want to remove both rear handles, you can do the same thing on the left side. I, however, will not be removing both handles. So if you've got your cords velcroed on here on the right hand side, you're going to remove them. Now that we've removed the right auxiliary cable, okay, if you're doing both handles, you'll remove both cables, you'll put both covers on. You want to remove your right handle. If you're removing both handles, you'll put your 9/64 Allen key right in the hole. Okay, so you'll grab the proper one, you'll stick it in there, and you'll turn that sucker until this comes off. If you're just going to remove one handle, you can cheat. So these handles have nothing on the inside of them. Their cables are external, so you don't have to worry that you're hurting it. You'll loosen both knobs, or you can take them both out, up to you. Okay, and because it hurts my hands to use the manual Allen keys, I'm just going to use my drill very carefully as to not strip anything. See how loose this is? I now can just take my handle out, okay? And it is kind of locked in there with these two little channels or rivets, so you're going to want to make sure to loosen that as much as you can to pull your handle out. So I've removed the handle so that I now have the right side of my machine clear, and I want to snug up my other handle before I begin, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and tighten that up. Line it back up. It's very difficult to get the handle out of the channel to pull it all the way out, so don't worry that it's going to tighten up in the wrong place. Okay, so we got our manuals on. These just control how tight, right, our handle is when we go to move it, how snug that is. So those can be as snug as you want them, and then you want to get these other ones good and tight before you continue. And you just want a little bit of like hand tight on the pressure. You don't want to over tighten them and strip them out. The next step will be to add your thread break sensor so that your computer can beep and tell you when your thread breaks. On Lucey, she does not come with a built-in thread break sensor like a Millie or a Freddie, so I'm going to show you this optional step if you have a Lucey or a Lenny. I like to first clean off. I mean, we can dust all we want, but I like to have a nice clean surface. So I get a little bit of rubbing alcohol on there. I'm going to take it and I'm going to just clean off the top area where that thread break sensor is going to go. You'll notice you have this little auxiliary port to put your thread break sensor Ethernet cable into. Once everything's all cleaned on here, you'll notice that this is a two-part thing. So you have a magnet that you can actually take this off or put it on if you need to, but this part needs to stick to your machine first. So I'm going to take it off. Now it sticks to your machine where this wheel is sitting right over your thread guide. So the wheel is going to face your thread path, not the auxiliary port. I'm going to put this up by my 3-part hole guide. And I'll show you what that looks like here at the end. Not sure if I cleaned that area, so let's get it clean. Go ahead and put that on. Give it a good press. If you're needing to pay attention to detail like me, you'll want to make sure it's as straight as possible. Mine's a little crooked. That's going to drive me crazy. Go ahead and put it on. Okay. And you'll notice you've got the Ethernet port on the back, so you're going to take the included green Ethernet cable and you're going to plug it into your port, and then you're going to plug it into your thread break sensor guide. Okay, so now that's all plugged into where it needs to go. So let's see what it's got to look like on the other side with our thread path. Okay, so now we have our orange thread here, so it's going to come through our 3-hole guide. It's going to come up and around our thread break sensor. So when you wrap it on, I like to wrap it twice, especially with glide, because glide has a tendency to kind of flop out of the way. The most important thing is that when you pull on the thread, that arrow is going forward. Okay? See how the arrow is going clockwise? And then you'll go ahead and thread your machine like normal to the needle. Alright, so now we're going to install the actual Quilt Path hardware. Now this is going to be the beginning of our independent chassis that we're creating for our Quilt Path system to ride along our machine. You'll notice that it's got a couple different things on it. We've got these areas right in here that we've got kind of this V shape. This is going to ride on the under part of the chassis, okay? Not the chassis, I'm sorry, this trellis that's holding the machine table up, just the very bottom part that's sticking down. And then we've got this front part of the wheel that's going to ride along this part of the machine table, but it's going to be on the front of the table. So you're going to put this sucker down low and under, okay, so that those grooved wheels can get right under the bottom of that low hanging part of the trellis. And then you're going to see that the front wheel is going to slide right over the front of the machine. Okay, the table. Alrighty, and then if you play your cards right, it'll all kind of balance and sit there while you tighten it. Once your Quilt Path hardware is sitting on the machine, you can see that the wheel is sitting on the edge of the trellis rail, and then these V's are sitting just below this bottom low-hanging portion. You want to go ahead and tighten these up so that they're going to basically take these wheels and adjust them upward towards the frame to hold them and hold everything together. This red dot here, you're going to take this wrench over that bolt and you're going to take it and you're going to twist the red until you start to feel resistance, okay? Now you can see I have barely turned that and it's already gone up a lot, and you see the green dot kind of poking through. You're going to twist this until you begin to feel resistance, until that green dot is facing out towards you. You're then going to repeat that on this other side. You're going to take your wrench and you're going to twist from the floor to the ceiling until it reaches out. Now everything is nice and secure on my frame and nothing's going to wiggle off or out of place, but we've begun the independent chassis process. You can see how this wheel is rolling and connecting with the front of the table as well, just so you can understand how everything kind of works and flows together. Next, on both the right and left table legs, we're on the back end, so we're at the back portion of the machine. We're going to take off our outermost bolt on the legs, and we are going to attach our bracket that's going to hold our motor drive belt to that leg. We're going to loosen this bolt, and then we're going to put this on top of it. You'll notice that one of the cooler parts about these brackets is that when you put it on, it sits perpendicular to the table because of the way that the bracket's made. So just make sure that it stays on there nice and straight, and you secure these nice and tight with the same locking washers and nuts that we have for the bolts for the table. So you're going to grab your belt, okay, it's a single belt. You're going to take it and you're going to put its teeth. These teeth are made to go inside this section, but they go with the soft side to the outside, okay? And you're going to take one of the plates and one of the locking screws, and you're going to put the teeth nestled into one of the grooves. And you're going to finger tight one side, then get the other screw in there finger tight as well, okay? Just so you can get everything lined up. I try not to have anything go over the top of my table, more because for me it looks aesthetically better than not. You can clip off whatever excess you have when you're done, or you can let it hang off or taller or over the edge. But make sure you have at least a couple extra teeth on the top when you go to tighten that up. So I'm going to grab my Phillips and I'm going to tighten this, and then we're going to pull it through to the other side. See that we've got our bracket all tightened up and squared away, and our belt is snugly fit inside there. What you want to do is take your belt and wrap it around your leg, okay? Try not to twist it or bend it. Make sure to keep it nice and flat, but your belt is going to go under your table leg before you feed it into the Quilt Path hardware. So next we want to fit our belt through the different portions of our Quilt Path hardware. I would say logistically it's probably easier if you're facing the pantograph side of the machine to go from the left to the right leg, because you can feed it through this block, through the gear, and then through this gear to the other leg. I did mine backwards. Either way you do it, you want to make sure that your belt is not tangled in any way, that your flat side is facing the floor, and that your teeth are facing up. So I'm untangling my belt to make sure I can put it through well, and I'm going to fish it through. Okay? So we want to make sure that the smooth side of the belt is running along these smooth parts of the wheels, and that the teeth side of the belt is facing up towards the teeth, towards the wheels with the teeth. Okay? So we put that on. It naturally has a curve in it. It wants to curve around. We put that one in. Come around to the other side, and we've got to fish it through the block. Again, this would probably be easier if you went the opposite direction, but once it's through, it's through. Alright, so you want to make sure that everything's nice and flat and ready to go, and then we'll secure this on the other side. So once you've got your belt nice and flat, you want to make sure there's no bends or twists and turns along the length of the table. You want to get the belt up in there nice and taut. You don't want to try to overstretch or pull. You just want it to fit nice and firm in there. Once you put the bracket over the flat side and the teeth are in the teeth guides, just like the last one, you want to get your screws in there finger tight. Then it's a little bit easier to come back in with the screwdriver and tighten them both one at a time. Okay, now before I tighten it all the way, I just want to double check that my belt is nice and snug. So my bracket is being held on there with the two screws that I have finger tight. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure that I can't advance it anymore. Then I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to tighten it all up. Now, you can now take a pair of wire cutters or diagonal cutters and you can cut off the excess. I actually have one that's set up for a 12-foot table. I have multiple table sizes in the shop, and I may want to change this out one day. So I am just going to let this curl back up, okay? And I will probably just zip tie it right here to the leg, just so I can hold it nice and out of place. Now I don't want anything too taut or too tight where this is going to hurt or damage my my belt in any way, so I just want to make sure to keep it nice and loose so nothing's twisting or cracking or breaking, and this is held out of the way, and if I want to put this on a different machine later, I sure can. Next, we're going to attach our clamp spring, and we're going to use our 5/32 Allen wrench to loosen the bolts underneath our machine and attach this to our chassis. It's essentially going to go right here so that when the chassis moves over, we're able to clamp down our quilt path on that clamp spring. Make sure that when you're replacing your bolts underneath your carriage, that you replace with the new bolts that APQS put in your kit. Okay, this will allow for better clearance between the chassis and your new Quilt Path hardware. Next, we're going to replace the front left axle cover with the new axle cover. You'll see that it has a clip-in portion of it that's going to clip into this little area on the side of the machine, and you're going to need to use your 2 new screws that are longer in place of these 2 screws. Alright, next we're going to take off our laser holder on the left side of our machine. When we're facing the pantograph side, you want to unplug it, set it to the side. Okay, and we are actually going to unscrew the post. We are going to take this cool looking doohickey here, called the lower frame belt bracket, part M, in between the sewing head and the carriage. And we're also going to take one of these fancy handles to use it to secure. I'm going to put this here. Next, we're going to use the 2 8/32 socket head screws, okay, and we're going to use those to attach the lower frame belt clamp to the right side of the machine head if you're looking from the rear of the machine, so right where we're looking at, using the outermost set of holes on the lower frame belt bracket. Tighten screws into the clamps. Next, we're going to loosen these 2 pairs of screws. That is going to hold our curved arm in them. You're going to loosen them 2 to 3 rotations. They're not going to come all the way out. They are just going to be loosened so that we can slide that pole into here. And you'll notice that there is a screw right in the middle bottom of this bottom hole to ensure that you can't put the pole in too far down. It's kind of a fail-safe. So we don't want these coming out, but we do want them loose. Okay, and make sure to just jiggle that green bracket back So that way you have a nice little gap in the top so that you have space for that pole to slide through. Then we're going to take the curved pole and we're going to go ahead and slide this in. If it's difficult to get in, you probably haven't loosened your screws enough. So it's in and it's on there, and I can't let it go any farther because there's a fail-safe screw at the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of tighten them all together. You don't want to tighten down one side then the other side, but do like 2 or 3 turns on the left and 2 or 3 turns on the right. You want to do it evenly so that it doesn't pinch down more on one side than the other. Alright, so that should be on there nice and tight, and now we have our curved pole in there. Next, while we're down here, we want to take a look at these wires that are all grouped together. We're going to undo the umbilical cord, get it nice and straightened out, and we're going to fish it up through the pole. You'll notice that there was like a removable cover on that. I just left it on there because it's a lot easier to guide one piece through than multiple pieces through. And then you'll see it start to pop its head out through the top there. Okay. If you look at it through the other side, it's come all the way through. You can then remove this black nylon cover to expose the wires that are inside. You'll connect those here in a bit. Next, we want to assemble and install the tablet mount bracket. You're going to need your 5/32 Allen wrench, and then you're going to want to get a knob, part N. You're going to want to get the tablet mount, which is part R, and then this part Q, which is the tablet mount bracket itself, and we're going to put them all together. So you're going to put R on top of Q with the little toggle switch. Okay. It's facing forward. You've got the round portion of that facing backwards, and it sits nice and flush with your bracket. You're then going to take your knob for N, and you're going to put it in that hole in the back. You're going to want to flip it over and loosen these so that it can go on the front portion of the pole. And just remember to pull those green pieces apart so that you have a gap, and we'll put that on the front portion of the pole. Have it with the toggle switch and all the things facing upward, right? We're going to slide these cables through. We're going to put it on top of our post. Next, once you get that on there, you only want to leave it about, I don't know, maybe 1/2 inch from the front. You want to go ahead and tighten up each side of the bracket. I would suggest doing your best to keep it level, maybe even get a level if you're not good at eyeballing it. Once you kind of have it snug, you can kind of move it back and forth real easily. Then you can go through and give it a final turn. So you're going to take your tablet mounting bracket and you're going to loosen the knob till it's off. It helps me to hold the bolt while I do this. Then you'll notice that this part here is quite curved, and so that's going to fit right in here into the curved part of that bracket. You're going to put it through the right way, preferably, and you're just going to tighten it on there. So the next portion of this process is a little bit easier to tell what's going on from the back. The screws can be a little bit daunting, so hopefully this will help you out. I need to fit my tablet into this bracket, and right now you can tell that the tablet is too wide for either portions of the bracket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up one of these 2 screws, and you get more leverage if you use a short end. Okay. And that's going to allow me to slide the bracket left and right. Okay, so I can open these up, and then make sure your power button is facing the ceiling, and you can go ahead and slide this in. Okay, once you slide this in, you can make sure that it's snug but not overly tight. And then you can just go ahead and tighten these down. They go up and down. So we've got one more screw here on what is my right side, facing the needle side of the machine. Okay, and I'm going to loosen that up because it's going to allow me to move the bracket up and down. Right now it's in the way of my power cord and I don't want it to be, so I'm just going to go ahead and move it up. Next we want to add our Quilt Path power. You'll notice that you can use your tablet on or off the frame because you have this additional portion of your power adapter that's going to allow you to plug it into the wall while you use it. We don't need this part, so we're going to go ahead and put it down. We are going to Velcro our power box. It's got a soft loop Velcro, and we're going to stick it right on to our box here, onto our bracket. If you haven't already, remove the tape. And you're going to slide this cord here with the 2 round holes into the power box. And then you're going to go ahead and mount that bracket. Now I find it easiest to mount it with the power cord facing back, but if you like it facing forward, that's okay too. Given a part U that is just a little adhesive clip, like a little command strip, that you're going to go ahead and you're going to put right here on the back of your tablet bracket. Okay, right now it's open. We are just going to let it clip all of our extra cording. Now you can clip it on there if you want. You can clip it down and lock it in. You don't have to do that. It just kind of holds it nicely either way. You can take your power cord and neatly place it right here into the power slot where it goes. You've got a little USB power dongle with the loop. Okay, we've got that soft loop on the back. We are just going to go ahead and put that on. We are going to attach the one that looks like a phone cable. So it's a clear plastic telephone type connector to the toggle switch. And that's only going to clip in one way. You'll hear it click when it goes in. Our dongle is going to plug into our USB cord here, our USB port here. Okay. And then the cord coming out of your tube that is USB is going to plug into the dongle itself, and it's got a little lock on it. So if you ever need to remove it, you gotta pinch it and pull it out. Okay, you can hear it click when it goes in. Next, we want to finish setup on the back of our machine. So you'll notice that you got a power cord that came in the box. You're gonna plug the female end into the male end, nice and firm. You're gonna undo the Velcro loop. Take the black phone jack looking cord, pull it through and plug it in. Okay, this red Cat 5 cable is actually going to go into your machine, but it's only going to go into your machine when it is actually in fact connected to your quilt path itself. See that it's a little bit difficult for me to connect my system with these cords and cables in the way. So we want to get these cords and cables out of the way before we continue. So we're going to separate them. And we're just going to loosen this bracket that's holding the power cord. Go ahead and take that off. And we're actually going to instead secure this to the other handle on the machine, so that way as the machine's moving forward and backward, it's not jiggling loose my Cat 5 cables. Okay, and you just want to make sure that when you're using the machine that you have plenty of clearance to go forwards and backwards. Okay. So ensure that you're able to go forward and back, and that nothing is going to obstruct this when you do so, and it's going to save all of your cords from getting damaged in the long run. You should now be able to put your system together. Okay, and it's got to get a little bit of force in the front to clip. You can clamp down your handle, then clamp down your back down here, and now they are attached and they move as one piece. Once they are secure, you can then go in and attach your Cat 5 cable into your auxiliary port, which is the very top port on the right side of the machine when you're facing from the pantograph side. Now you can see that we have our Lucey attached to our Quilt Path system, and they move collectively as one. The belts, you know, are clamped down and ready to go to work with the system, and all we have to do is go ahead and get a quilt on the frame, get our system loaded up and ready to go, and start quilting. You should have already taken care of going into your settings and checking for updates and security, and updating your tablet to ensure that all of your window updates are good to go. If they're not, that's something that you're going to want to get on the Wi-Fi and do, but the tablet should walk you through all of the prompts so that you're ready to go and you can start sewing as soon as possible. Thank you guys for joining me for today's quick unboxing and impromptu setup of our Quilt Path computerized quilting system for our APQS long arm quilting machine. I hope that this is helpful for you when you're at home unboxing and setting up your machine on your own if you choose not to have a rep come and set it up for you. If this video was helpful for you for getting everything squared away and ready to go, please give it a like and share above, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see all the new content when we put it out. Take care and happy quilting, y'all. Again, I'm Lauren Jackson, an APQS sales representative and educator, and it was my pleasure to do this video for you today. Happy quilting, y'all. Bye.